No one noticed the anomaly at first. Mars had become routine. By the late 22nd century, humanity had transformed the red planet from a distant dream into a thriving frontier. Research domes glittered beneath transparent shields. Nuclear fusion stations hummed across the dusty plains. Autonomous mining cities carved tunnels kilometers beneath the surface. The mystery of Mars had become ordinary. Until Sol 14,892. It began with a routine excavation beneath the towering slopes of Olympus Mons. A drilling machine struck something that no geological survey had predicted. Not rock, not ice. Something carved. Chief Engineer Elena Vasquez frowned as the drill's vibrations suddenly ceased. Pressure dropped to zero, one technician reported. That's impossible. The drill didn't break through. It stopped because... The technician swallowed. It hit something harder than diamond. The control room fell silent. Mars wasn't supposed to contain artificial structures buried nearly 3 kilometers underground. Within hours, excavation drones carefully removed the surrounding dust and basalt. The first image stunned everyone watching. A perfectly polished black stone. Its surface reflected light like glass despite having been buried for millions of years. Not a single crack. Not a single grain of erosion. Even stranger, the stone wasn't natural. Its edges met at mathematically perfect 90-degree angles. Someone had cut it. Someone impossibly ancient. News spread through the solar system within hours. Governments attempted to classify the discovery. They failed. A single leaked image ignited humanity's imagination. Social media exploded. Scientists argued. Historians panicked. Conspiracy theorists celebrated. Then someone noticed something that changed everything. An archaeology student from Cairo compared satellite coordinates of the Martian structure with Earth's ancient monuments. At first, it seemed ridiculous. Then she overlaid the maps. Her hands began to shake. The angles matched. Not approximately. Precisely. The buried Martian structure occupied nearly the same geometric relationship to Olympus Mons as the Great Pyramid occupied relative to the Nile Valley. She expanded the model. Another point matched. Then another. Then another. The pattern continued across the planet. Within 48 hours, thousands of independent researchers reached the same conclusion. The largest pyramid-like formations on Mars mirrored the geometric layout of the ancient Egyptian pyramids with astonishing precision. Some dismissed it as coincidence. Others insisted it proved an ancient connection. The world's media couldn't stop talking about it. Headlines dominated every screen. Mars pyramids match Egypt? Ancient civilization confirmed? Who built them first? No one had answers. Only questions. 3 weeks later, Expedition 9 descended into the newly uncovered chamber. The entrance itself defied logic. No doors. No hinges. Only a seamless triangular passage that appeared after the polished stone reacted to human touch. Not machinery. Recognition. Commander Daniel Mercer led the team. "Recording begins," he said calmly. "If this chamber is artificial, then today marks the greatest archaeological discovery in human history." The team stepped inside. Their helmet lights revealed walls unlike anything ever created. Black crystalline surfaces stretched into darkness. Symbols covered every inch. None resembled Egyptian hieroglyphs. None matched any known language. Yet every scientist felt the same strange sensation. They looked familiar, as though humanity had forgotten them rather than never seeing them. Biologist Sarah Kim whispered over the radio. "Does anyone else feel like we've been here before?" Nobody answered, because they all felt it. At the center of the chamber stood a pyramid. Not enormous. Barely 5 meters tall. Perfectly smooth. Every face reflected the explorers back at themselves. Then, it moved. Without warning, Faint blue light raced across its edges. The chamber vibrated. Every electronic device instantly shut down. Helmet displays vanished. Communications died. The only sound remaining was everyone's breathing. Commander Mercer reached toward the glowing surface. "Don't touch it," someone shouted. Too late. The moment his glove brushed the pyramid, a pulse of white light erupted through the chamber. Not an explosion. A signal. One that traveled far beyond Mars. Far beyond Earth. Far beyond the solar system. Across interstellar space at a speed no human technology could explain. Deep in a forgotten region of the galaxy, where ancient stars circled a dying black sun, thousands of colossal alien monitoring stations awakened simultaneously after remaining dormant for nearly 200,000 years. Their automated systems scanned the incoming transmission. One message repeated in every known galactic language. Origin species detected. The builders have returned. Across hundreds of alien worlds, emergency beacons flared to life. Ancient governments that had existed since before humanity discovered fire received the same impossible alert. Panic spread faster than light. The impossible had happened. The species they believed extinct had just announced its return. And they weren't coming from the stars. They were coming from a tiny blue planet called Earth. Across the galaxy, alarms that had been silent for 200,000 years screamed back to life. Not one, not 10, millions. Ancient orbital stations rotated toward Earth. Deep space listening arrays abandoned their passive scans. Planetary defense networks powered weapons that had not fired since the earliest days of the Galactic Age. No one questioned the alert, because every civilization recognized the same encrypted signature. It belonged to only one species, the Builders. Nearly 64,000 light-years from Earth, hidden inside the shattered rings of a dead gas giant, the High Council of the Galactic Concord gathered in emergency session. The chamber itself was older than most civilizations. Its walls had witnessed the birth and extinction of thousands of species. Representatives from over 300 advanced civilizations appeared as shimmering holograms. Some resembled towering crystalline giants. Others were floating masses of living plasma. Several had no physical bodies at all. Yet every delegate shared something almost unheard of in galactic politics: fear. The Council's central intelligence projected the recovered transmission into the room. A soft mechanical voice broke the silence. Signal authenticity, 100%. Another pause. Origin confirmed. Then came the words no one wanted to hear. The Builder genetic signature has been detected. The chamber erupted into chaos. Impossible. They vanished before recorded history. The Builders destroyed themselves. No. They ascended. They left the galaxy. They cannot return. The arguments echoed endlessly. Finally, the oldest representative in attendance slowly rose. Elder Varuin had ruled the Archon Dominion for nearly 12,000 years. His species had witnessed civilizations rise before Earth had multicellular life. His voice silenced the room. "You are all asking the wrong question." The chamber became still. The question is not whether the Builders survived. He looked directly at Earth's glowing hologram. The question is why they chose to forget who they were. Meanwhile, on Mars, Commander Daniel Mercer awoke inside the underground chamber. His team surrounded him. Every electronic system remained dead. Only the mysterious pyramid continued glowing softly. "What happened?" Sarah whispered. Mercer pressed a hand against his helmet. "My head." He could remember everything. His childhood. Military training. Mars. Earth. Yet something else had appeared inside his mind. Not memories. Fragments. Cities suspended between stars. Human ships larger than moons. Machines capable of folding entire galaxies. children laughing beneath skies filled with 3 suns. He staggered backward. "I've seen this place before." Sarah stared. "You said that before you touched it." "No." Mercer's voice trembled. "I mean, before I was born." Back on Earth, governments attempted to calm the public. Official statements insisted there was no evidence of alien involvement, no proof of ancient civilizations, no cause for panic. Then every major observatory reported the same impossible discovery. Hundreds of unidentified objects had appeared beyond Pluto. Not approaching. Waiting. Gigantic. Motionless. The largest measured over 600 kilometers long. None emitted heat. None reflected sunlight normally. They simply existed. Watching. Within hours, more objects appeared. Thousands. Then tens of thousands. Every telescope on Earth pointed toward the edge of the solar system. Astronomers could scarcely breathe. No fleet in human history came remotely close to this scale. If hostile, humanity wouldn't survive a single hour. Yet the fleet did nothing. It simply waited, as if expecting permission. Inside the flagship of the alien coalition, Supreme Commander Carell observed Earth through a transparent quantum display. His second-in-command spoke carefully. "Our invasion protocols remain available." Carell didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied images from Earth. Children playing in parks. Families eating dinner. Astronauts celebrating on Mars. People arguing online about whether the pyramid was fake. The commander finally sighed. "They truly don't remember." "No, Commander. They possess builder DNA." "Confirmed." "They possess builder neural architecture." "Confirmed." "They possess builder adaptability." "Confirmed." Carell lowered his head. "Then an invasion is impossible." His officers exchanged confused glances. "But Commander, they have primitive weapons. They haven't left their own system. They're divided into nations." Carell slowly turned toward them. "You study their technology. I study their history." He enlarged an ancient recording recovered from the oldest archives. It showed impossible scenes. Entire galaxies illuminated by human-made megastructures. Worlds terraformed in hours. Stars moved like chess pieces. At the center of it all, humans. Not slaves. Not survivors. Architects. Carell's voice became almost reverent. "Every civilization alive today exists because the builders allowed it." He paused. "And if these humans recover even 1% of what they once knew." The room fell silent. This fleet wouldn't last a day. On Mars, the Black Pyramid pulsed again. This time, symbols appeared across its surface. Not alien glyphs. Not hieroglyphics. English. Simple. Clear. Waiting for Commander Mercer to read them. He stepped closer, his heartbeat echoing inside his helmet. The message was only 6 words long. "Welcome home, first descendants of Earth." Mercer froze. His breathing became ragged. There was only one problem. If humanity were the descendants, then who had lived on Earth before them? And where had they gone? Commander Daniel Mercer stared at the glowing words. "Welcome home, first descendants of Earth." The message refused to disappear. Every member of Expedition 9 saw it. Every helmet camera recorded it. Every scientific instrument, now mysteriously functioning again, confirmed that the letters were physically projected onto the pyramid's surface. Sarah Kim whispered, almost afraid to breathe. "First descendants." She looked at Mercer. "That means we weren't the first." Within minutes, the chamber's communication systems suddenly came back online. Static filled every frequency. Then Mission Control answered. "Expedition 9, respond immediately." Mercer nearly laughed with relief. "This is Commander Mercer. We've regained communications." A long silence followed. Then the director of the Mars Authority spoke with an urgency Mercer had never heard before. "Commander, listen carefully. Do not touch anything. Do not activate anything. The President has declared the site under maximum planetary security." Mercer looked around the chamber. "You're too late." Another pulse of blue light rolled across the walls. "It's already activating." On Earth, the leaked images spread faster than governments could suppress them. Every screen on the planet displayed the same 6 words. Religious leaders debated their meaning. Scientists demanded access to Mars. Historians reopened every mystery that had ever been dismissed as mythology. Ancient texts, lost civilizations, impossible engineering, legends of gods descending from the heavens. For centuries, humanity had treated them as stories. Now, nothing seemed impossible anymore. The world's greatest archaeologists assembled in Cairo, not because of politics, because every road led back to Egypt. Professor Layla Hassan stood before a digital reconstruction of the Great Pyramid. She had spent 40 years studying its construction. She knew every tunnel, every chamber, every unexplained feature, or so she believed. A young engineer interrupted her presentation. "Professor, you need to see this." He projected a 3-dimensional comparison between the Martian pyramid chamber and the King's chamber inside the Great Pyramid. The room fell silent. The proportions matched exactly. Not merely similar. Identical. Every angle. Every ratio. Even the placement of internal voids. Layla slowly removed her glasses. "This," her voice cracked, "is impossible." "No," replied the engineer quietly. "It means whoever built one built the other." Far beyond the solar system, the alien fleet continued waiting. No engines. No movement. No transmissions. Only silence. Inside the flagship, Commander Carell received another report. "Commander, the younger civilizations are demanding immediate action. They fear humanity will regain builder technology." Carell folded his 4 hands behind his back. "They're right to be afraid. But fear creates foolish decisions." One officer hesitated. "Permission to speak freely?" "Granted. What if humanity remembers everything?" Carell looked through the observation window toward the tiny yellow star called Sol. "Then history begins again. Deep beneath Mars, the pyramid emitted another harmonic pulse. This time, the chamber itself changed. Walls that had appeared solid slowly became transparent. Hidden corridors stretched into darkness. Entire sections of the underground complex illuminated for the first time in millions of years. The explorers stood speechless. The chamber wasn't a room. It was the entrance. Beyond it lay an underground city. Massive towers carved from black crystal. Bridges spanning impossible distances. Circular halls larger than modern stadiums. Everything perfectly preserved. No dust. No decay. As though its inhabitants had left only yesterday. Sarah's voice echoed through the silent city. "My God." Mercer shook his head. "No." He pointed toward a distant structure. "They expected us." At the center of the city stood a colossal circular platform. Floating above it, a sphere of white light, nearly 20 meters across. It slowly descended as the humans approached. No sound. No visible machinery. Only light. When it stopped, a calm voice filled the air. Not through speakers. Directly inside their minds. Identity confirmed. Genetic lineage verified. Builder descendants recognized. The team exchanged terrified glances. The voice continued. Memory restoration available. Warning. A pause. Long enough to make every heartbeat feel deafening. Restoration is irreversible. Mercer swallowed. What memories? The sphere answered immediately. Your true history. Back on Earth, every radio telescope suddenly detected an enormous burst of energy coming from Mars. Not an explosion. A transmission. It spread through the solar system in every direction. This time, human scientists managed to decode only a tiny fragment. 5 words. Words that made every military command center on Earth fall silent. The archive has reopened. Nobody knew what the archive was, but someone else did. Across thousands of alien worlds, governments that had stood unchanged for millennia entered full emergency mobilization. Ancient evacuation protocols were activated. Civilian populations were moved underground. Entire fleets abandoned border patrols and raced toward their home systems. Not to prepare for war, to prepare for judgment. Because every civilization remembered the last time. The archive had opened. Commander Mercer stepped toward the floating sphere. His team tried to stop him. Daniel, wait. If this is a trap. He smiled faintly. If they wanted us dead. He looked around the untouched city. They've had 200,000 years to do it. He reached out. His fingertips touched the light. The world vanished. In an instant, Mercer saw impossible visions. Human fleets crossing galaxies. Cities orbiting living stars. Children learning to reshape planets as classroom exercises. Diplomats ending wars between alien civilizations. Engineers igniting newborn suns. Then, a terrible war. An enemy unlike anything imaginable. And one impossible decision. Humanity had chosen to erase its own memories, abandon its unimaginable power, and begin again on a small blue world called Earth, hoping that one day, when the galaxy needed them most, their descendants would rediscover who they truly were. Mercer opened his eyes, tears streaming down his face. He finally understood. Earth had never been humanity's birthplace. It had been humanity's second chance. And somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, the ancient enemy that had once forced. Daniel Mercer collapsed to one knee. His teammates rushed toward him, but he raised a trembling hand. I'm all right. He wasn't. Because his mind no longer belonged to a single lifetime. Fragments of another existence flooded through him, memories that felt older than language itself. He remembered commanding fleets larger than solar systems. He remembered standing beside beings from 1,000 worlds, all united under a single banner. He remembered Earth, not as a young civilization, but as the capital of something unimaginably vast. And then, he remembered the war. The floating sphere sensed his awakening. Its gentle voice returned. Memory synchronization. 0.00003% complete. Sarah frowned. Only that much? Mercer stared into the glowing sphere. If that's only a fraction. I don't want to imagine 1%. The sphere answered without emotion. 1% exceeds the cognitive capacity of present-day human neural architecture. Incremental restoration recommended. Across Earth, telescopes remained fixed on the alien armada waiting beyond Pluto. The fleet had grown. Not by dozens. Not by hundreds. By millions. Ships emerged silently from folds in space, taking formation around the solar system without crossing its boundary. They made no hostile move. No threats. No demands. Only silence. Military analysts from every nation reached the same conclusion. If those ships attacked, humanity would lose before its first missile left the launch rail. Yet the attack never came. Instead, every vessel turned toward Mars, as if waiting for permission from the people standing inside a forgotten city. Inside the Galactic Concord, panic had become open division. The younger civilizations demanded preemptive war. They are weak now. We strike before they recover. We cannot allow another builder empire. But the elder races refused. Elder Varroan slowly activated an ancient recording recovered from the oldest archives. The chamber darkened. Stars appeared overhead. Then came a single blue world. Earth. Not modern Earth. Ancient Earth. Its skies were filled with enormous silver structures stretching from horizon to horizon. Orbiting rings encircled the planet like glowing halos. Ships crossed the atmosphere without engines. Children laughed as miniature moons floated above city parks. There was no pollution, no poverty, no hunger, no war. One delegate whispered in disbelief, "This is impossible." Varroan shook his head. "No. This is what humanity looked like before the great sacrifice." The recording continued. Humans welcomed alien ambassadors, shared technology freely, ended conflicts that had lasted for millions of years. Wherever they traveled, civilizations flourished. They were not conquerors, Varroan said softly. They were guardians. Then the recording changed. The stars disappeared. Darkness consumed entire sectors of the galaxy. Worlds went silent. Stars themselves vanished. Not exploded. Vanished. An officer gasped. What weapon could do that? Varroan's expression hardened. It wasn't a weapon. It was alive. The image revealed something impossible. A black wave. Not made of matter. Not made of energy. It consumed light itself. Planets dissolved without explosions. Entire civilizations disappeared without leaving debris. No survivors. No signals. Nothing. The delegates stared in horror. The void. The name echoed through the chamber. Every ancient race remembered it. Every young race had dismissed it as myth. Until now. On Mars, Mercer looked toward the floating sphere. "You said our memories were erased." "Why?" The sphere remained silent for several seconds. Then another vision appeared around the explorers. The city disappeared. They stood inside a perfect simulation of ancient Earth. Towering cities reached into the clouds. Green forests covered landscapes untouched by pollution. Oceans shimmered beneath orbiting structures. The voice spoke. 217,000 years ago, humanity faced extinction. The sky darkened. The black wave appeared. Even inside the simulation, it inspired primal terror. It didn't attack with ships. It didn't negotiate. It simply erased reality wherever it passed. The voice continued. Probability of victory, 0%. Mercer clenched his fists. So we lost. Negative. The simulation changed. Billions of humans gathered across countless worlds. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, children. Every civilization of the Galactic Alliance watched. One decision was made. A terrible one. Humanity dismantled its own empire. Destroyed every military fleet. Scattered its technology across hidden worlds. Erased its history. Then voluntarily reduced itself to a primitive civilization on a distant blue planet. Earth. Sarah stared in disbelief. Why would anyone do that? The sphere answered with chilling simplicity. The void feeds on advanced civilizations. It cannot detect what appears primitive. The room fell silent. Humanity hadn't fallen because it was defeated. Humanity had hidden. Not out of fear. Out of strategy. At that exact moment, every alarm aboard the alien fleet activated simultaneously. Not because of Earth. Not because of Mars. Because something had appeared beyond the edge of the galaxy. Sensors failed to classify it. Stars in that region began disappearing one by one. Without explosions. Without light. Without sound. Commander Carell closed his eyes. "It found us." An officer's voice trembled. "Orders, Commander?" Carell looked toward the tiny blue dot called Earth. For 200,000 years, we protected their secret. He stood. Now, it is humanity's turn to protect ours. As the alien fleet finally powered its engines, every ship turned away from Earth, not to invade, but to form a defensive wall between the solar system and the endless darkness advancing from intergalactic space. The galaxy's oldest civilizations had made their choice. They would stand beside humanity, or fall before the void together. The first star vanished at 3:17 Universal Galactic Time. No explosion. No flash. One moment it illuminated 7 inhabited worlds. The next, there was only darkness. Astronomers across the galaxy watched in stunned silence as another star disappeared. Then another. Then another. The black frontier was moving. Not quickly. Not slowly. Inevitably. Like the tide. Only this tide consumed existence itself. Inside the command bridge of the Galactic Concorde flagship, every tactical display turned crimson. An artificial intelligence, older than most civilizations, spoke with unmistakable urgency. Void expansion confirmed. Estimated arrival at galactic core, 18 standard years. Probability of galactic survival without builder intervention, 0.004%. The bridge fell silent. Commander Carell looked toward the holographic image of Earth. For centuries, every military academy had taught the same lesson. If humanity ever returns, prepare to fight. Now, for the first time in recorded history, the lesson had changed. If humanity returns, pray they choose to save you. On Mars, Daniel Mercer and Expedition 9 stood before the floating archive sphere. The city around them continued awakening. Crystal towers lit one by one. Ancient transit lines hummed back to life. Massive machines buried beneath the streets began moving after 200,000 years of silence. The city wasn't abandoned. It had been sleeping. The sphere projected a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Thousands of glowing civilizations appeared. Then, entire sectors began fading into black. Sarah whispered, "Those aren't simulations." "No," Mercer replied. "They're happening now." The sphere's voice echoed through the chamber. Emergency Protocol Omega activated. Requesting authorization from recognized builder descendants. Mercer frowned. Authorization for what? The answer appeared as a holographic image above the city. A moon-sized object hidden beneath the Martian crust. It wasn't natural. It wasn't a city. It was a ship. No, it was an entire mobile civilization. The hologram rotated slowly. Its dimensions stretched for nearly 3,000 kilometers. Crew capacity, unlimited. Primary function, Ark-class Guardian vessel. Status, awaiting humanity. Mercer felt his heartbeat quicken. That's been under Mars. This entire time? Back on Earth, every television broadcast was interrupted. Not by governments. Not by hackers. Every screen on the planet displayed the same transmission. The image showed Commander Carell. Millions expected an ultimatum. Instead, the alien commander slowly bowed his head. Not out of weakness. Out of respect. His translated message echoed in every language on Earth. People of Earth. For over 200,000 of your years, we guarded the secret your ancestors entrusted to us. Cities across Earth fell silent. Traffic stopped. Markets froze. Families gathered around televisions. Carell continued. We once feared your return. Today, we pray for it. He looked directly into the camera. Humanity. The galaxy needs its guardians once more. The transmission ended. No threats. No demands. Only a plea. For the first time in history, humanity realized something astonishing. The fleets surrounding the solar system had never come to conquer Earth. They had come to protect it. Deep beneath Mars, Mercer stepped toward the archive sphere. If we're really descendants of the builders, tell me one thing. The sphere brightened. Ask. Mercer's voice was steady. Did our ancestors believe we'd succeed? A long silence followed. Then, the sphere projected a recording. An ancient human woman appeared. She wore no crown, no military uniform, no symbol of authority, only a simple white suit. Behind her stretched an enormous observation deck overlooking thousands of stars. She smiled warmly at the camera. If you're seeing this, our plan worked. She looked almost ordinary, yet every word carried impossible weight. You probably think we abandoned you. We didn't. We trusted you. She walked toward the stars. Knowledge can be inherited. So can technology. But wisdom must be earned. She smiled again. So we gave you something far more valuable. A chance to grow. Her eyes seemed to look directly at Mercer across 200,000 years. You'll build different cities. You'll speak different languages. You'll argue. You'll make mistakes. You'll even forget who you are. But when the darkness returns, you won't become us. You'll become better. The recording ended. No grand speech. No dramatic music. Only silence. Mercer wiped tears from his eyes. They believed in us. Sarah nodded slowly. Even after everything. Without another word, Mercer placed his hand against the archive sphere. One by one, the rest of the team joined him. The sphere glowed brighter than the Martian sun. Across Earth, children looked up as the night sky shimmered. Across the solar system, ancient machines hidden beneath moons, asteroids, and forgotten planets awakened. Across the galaxy, every dormant builder beacon lit simultaneously. One message echoed through space. Builder descendants have accepted stewardship. Guardian protocol initiated. Far beyond the edge of the galaxy, the endless black void paused. For the first time in 200,000 years, it had recognized something it had not sensed since the ancient war. Humanity. And this time, humanity was awake. The stars above Mars changed. Not because they moved. Because something hidden among them finally revealed itself. One by one, faint points of light surrounding the solar system brightened into brilliant blue. At first, astronomers assumed they were distant stars flaring unexpectedly. They were wrong. Each point of light unfolded into a colossal structure. Some were rings thousands of kilometers across. Others resembled crystalline spears floating silently through space. A few were so immense that they eclipsed entire moons. For more than 200,000 years, they had remained perfectly cloaked, waiting for a single command. That command had finally been given. Inside the Martian archive, the floating sphere displayed a new message. Guardian network online, 0.3%. Mercer frowned. Only 0.3%. The sphere answered. Current activation exceeds the total military capability of all known galactic civilizations combined. No one spoke. Sarah finally whispered. And that's less than 1%. The sphere simply replied. Affirmative. On Earth, panic gradually gave way to astonishment. Governments had prepared for invasion. Instead, impossible discoveries began appearing across the planet. In the Australian outback, the desert opened to reveal an enormous underground chamber lined with glowing white crystal. In the Andes Mountains, an entire cliff face folded inward like liquid glass, exposing a dormant transit gateway. Deep beneath the Sahara, satellites detected a geometric city extending nearly 300 kilometers beneath the sand. In Antarctica, seismic stations recorded something rising beneath the ice. Not an earthquake, but machinery awakening after unimaginable ages. Every continent, every ocean, every major tectonic plate. Humanity realized the impossible. Earth itself had been engineered. Not recently. Before recorded history, world leaders convened in an emergency summit unlike any before it. Presidents, prime ministers, scientists, military commanders, religious leaders. For the first time in human history, national rivalries seemed almost insignificant. No one debated whether the discoveries were real anymore. The evidence was everywhere. A young physicist addressed the assembly. If these systems were hidden beneath our planet, then whoever built them understood Earth better than we do today. An elderly historian smiled faintly. No. She looked around the room. They understood it because they built it. Meanwhile, the alien fleets remained in formation. Thousands of captains watched Earth with quiet anticipation. Young officers struggled to understand. One finally asked Commander Carell, "Why aren't they celebrating?" Carell looked thoughtfully toward the blue planet. "Because they're human." The officer blinked. "I don't understand." "They've just learned that their entire history is larger than they ever imagined." He smiled. "And their first instinct is to ask more questions." Back beneath Mars, Mercer stood before the archive sphere as new images filled the chamber. Not memories, blueprints, machines unlike anything he could comprehend. Energy systems that drew power directly from the fabric of space. Medical technology capable of rebuilding damaged organs in minutes. Terraforming engines designed to restore dead worlds. Planetary shields. Stellar forges. Gravity architecture. The list seemed endless. Sarah looked overwhelmed. "How are we supposed to learn all this?" The sphere answered calmly. "You are not expected to remember the past. You are expected to improve upon it." Mercer looked up. "So our ancestors don't want us to rebuild their civilization." "Correct. They want us to build a better one." For the first time since entering the archive, Mercer smiled. Suddenly, every display in the chamber flashed crimson. The calm voice of the archive changed. Not frightened. Urgent. Intergalactic anomaly accelerating. The holographic galaxy expanded. The black frontier was no longer advancing star by star. It had changed direction. It was coming straight for the solar system. Commander Carell received the same alert aboard his flagship. His tactical officer's voice shook. "The Void has altered course. Estimated arrival." He hesitated. 3 months. Silence spread across the bridge. 3 months. Not years. Not decades. 3 months before the greatest enemy in history reached humanity's doorstep. Carell slowly stood. "Signal every fleet." "What message, Commander?" He looked toward the distant blue world. "Tell them." His voice carried absolute certainty. "The Guardians are home." On Earth, millions stepped outside that night. The sky no longer looked familiar. Ancient builder stations shone like new constellations. Alien fleets formed protective rings beyond the orbit of Pluto. Mars glowed faintly red, hiding the greatest secret humanity had ever uncovered. Children pointed upward in wonder. Parents struggled to explain the impossible. No one could. Because humanity had reached a moment unlike any in its history. Yesterday, they believed they were alone. Today, they had discovered they were heirs to the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. Tomorrow, they would have to prove they deserved that inheritance. And beyond the darkness between galaxies, the Void continued its relentless approach. Not hunting a planet. Not hunting a species. Hunting the only civilization that had ever escaped it. Humanity. 3 months. That was all the galaxy had left. Not enough time to rebuild an empire. Not enough time to recreate 200,000 years of lost technology. And certainly not enough time to prepare an inexperienced civilization for a war against an enemy that had once consumed half the stars in the universe. The Galactic Concord knew it. The Archive knew it. Daniel Mercer knew it. Yet somehow, humanity wasn't afraid. Across Earth, something remarkable happened. Not because governments ordered it. Not because the Archive demanded it. People simply chose. Scientists who had spent their careers competing began sharing every discovery without hesitation. Nations opened research facilities to one another. Military engineers worked beside university students. Physicists debated with archaeologists. Linguists collaborated with quantum programmers. The barriers that had divided humanity for centuries didn't disappear overnight. But for the first time, progress mattered more than pride. Commander Carell watched the live streams from Earth in quiet amazement. His communications officer tilted his head. "They're organizing remarkably quickly." Carell smiled. "No. They're doing what humans have always done. When confronted with the impossible, they start building." Inside the Martian archive, the floating sphere displayed another message. Builder Assessment Protocol initiated. Mercer looked up. "Assessment?" The sphere answered. "Advanced technology may only be entrusted to civilizations that demonstrate wisdom equal to their knowledge." Sarah crossed her arms. "So this is a test?" "Affirmative." "What happens if we fail?" The chamber became unusually quiet. "Then the archive will remain sealed until another generation is ready." The first challenge came unexpectedly. The archive activated a dormant fusion reactor beneath Mars. Its output was enough to power every human settlement in the solar system for centuries. Yet there was one condition. Only one nation could receive control. The chamber waited. Mercer looked around at his team. No one spoke. Finally, Sarah stepped forward. "It shouldn't belong to any nation." Another engineer nodded. "It belongs to everyone." Mercer turned toward the glowing sphere. "Our answer is simple. No government owns this. No corporation owns this. No military owns this. It belongs to humanity." For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then the reactor hummed to life. The sphere responded. Assessment 1. Passed. Across the galaxy, ancient observers quietly exchanged glances. One elder ambassador whispered. "They gave away unlimited power." Without arguing. Another smiled. "They're already different from their ancestors." The second assessment was far more difficult. The archive revealed a prototype weapon capable of collapsing an enemy fleet with a single pulse. It could end wars instantly. It could also destroy civilizations. Again, the sphere asked a single question. Authorize production. The military advisors from Earth immediately recognized its strategic value. With such a weapon, the void might be slowed, perhaps even defeated. But Mercer remembered the recording left by the ancient woman. "You won't become us." He closed his eyes, then answered, "No." The room stared at him. "We'll study it. We'll understand it. But we won't mass-produce a weapon we barely comprehend." Sarah smiled. "Especially one future generations could misuse." The sphere glowed brilliantly. Assessment 2. Passed. Commander Carell received the notification. For the first time in centuries, he laughed. One of his officers looked confused. "Commander." "They refused absolute power." He shook his head in admiration. The ancient builders would have admired that. As days passed, humanity continued solving challenge after challenge. Some tested intelligence. Others tested compassion. Many tested restraint. Each success unlocked another piece of forgotten knowledge. Medical breakthroughs eliminated diseases once considered incurable. Gravity drives shortened interplanetary travel from months to hours. Atmospheric processors began restoring damaged ecosystems on Earth. Not because humanity had recovered ancient greatness, because they had earned access to it. Then, exactly 32 days before the void's arrival, the final assessment appeared. Unlike the others, it contained no technology, no machine, no puzzle, only a question displayed above the floating sphere. Why should humanity lead the galaxy again? Mercer read the words several times. Scientists proposed logical answers. Military leaders suggested strategic ones. Historians spoke of legacy. None felt right. Finally, a young technician named Leo, barely 23 years old, quietly stepped forward. "I don't think we should." Everyone turned toward him. He swallowed nervously. "I mean, if the galaxy survives this, maybe nobody should rule it." He looked at the glowing sphere. "Our ancestors protected everyone. They didn't own everyone. So if we're given another chance, let's build partners, not subjects." Silence filled the chamber. The floating sphere brightened until the entire underground city shimmered with white light. Its voice echoed through every street, every tower, every hidden machine beneath Mars. Final assessment. Passed. Stewardship confirmed. Welcome, guardians of the new age. At that exact moment, every dormant builder installation across the solar system activated together. And beyond the orbit of Neptune, a colossal object, hidden inside the darkness for 200,000 years, finally opened its eyes. It did not arrive like an army. It arrived like absence. First, the stars beyond the Kuiper Belt dimmed, not because they were blocked, but because their light simply stopped existing. Telescopes across Earth registered the same impossible reading. Entire regions of space were being unwritten. Then came the silence. No radio noise. No background radiation. No gravitational ripples. As if the universe itself was holding its breath. Inside the Martian archive, every display turned black. For the first time since activation, the sphere's voice carried something close to urgency. Void proximity, 0.7 light-years. Sarah's voice cracked. "That's nothing. That's basically here." Mercer didn't answer. He was staring at the holographic map of the solar system. Every builder station had activated. Every hidden structure was awake. But none had fired. They were waiting for permission. On Earth, skies filled with light that did not belong to any known star chart. Massive structures unfolded in orbit like mechanical flowers made of impossible geometry. Some rotated slowly, aligning themselves with deep space vectors. Others locked into formation around the sun, forming concentric defensive layers. For the first time in human history, Earth was no longer defenseless. It was protected by something that looked less like technology, and more like intent. Across the Galactic Concord fleet, panic had turned into grim readiness. Commander Carell stood at the center of his bridge. "The void is no longer moving through space," one officer reported. Carell nodded slowly. "It never did." Silence. He continued. "It moves through history." No one asked what that meant. They already knew. The void did not conquer civilizations. It erased the possibility that they ever existed. Back on Mars, the archive sphere dimmed. A new message appeared. Final directive unlocked. Mercer stepped forward. "What directive?" The sphere responded. The builders did not design a final weapon. They designed a final choice. The chamber around them shifted. The Martian city faded away. In its place appeared a vision of Earth's distant past. Not the prehistoric Earth humanity believed in, but something far older. Cities stretching across continents. Orbital habitats casting shadows over oceans. Humans speaking with dozens of alien species in shared language networks. Peace, expansion, unity, and then the void arrived. A black wave across the cosmos. Civilizations vanished like sparks in rain. Mercer felt his breath tighten. This is the end. Correction. The vision changed. Humanity gathered. Not as soldiers. Not as empires. As something else. A council of billions. Every world. Every colony. Every human mind linked into one decision. And that decision echoed across time. We will not fight as individuals. We will become the shield. The archive sphere spoke again. Builder strategy. Final form revealed. Sarah whispered, "What does that mean?" The answer came immediately. Mars trembled. Not from impact, but from awakening. Beneath the surface, something unimaginably large began to move. Not a ship. Not a city. A network. A galaxy-scale system of linked consciousness nodes, dormant across thousands of worlds, now synchronizing for the first time in millennia. Mercer staggered. This isn't just Mars. The sphere confirmed. Correct. This is humanity's distributed body. Outside Neptune's orbit, the void finally revealed itself. It was not black. Not dark. Not empty. It was erasure given form. Space collapsed ahead of it, not bending but forgetting how to exist. Entire star systems blinked out as if they had never been written into reality. And then it stopped. Not because it encountered resistance, but because it sensed something it had not felt since the beginning of time. Awareness. Across the solar system, every builder station aligned. Every hidden weapon system refused activation. Every defense grid powered down. And instead, they connected. A signal moved through them faster than physics allowed. It reached Earth. It reached Mars. It reached every human mind interfaced with the archive. And for the first time in 200,000 years, humanity spoke as one. Not in words, but in identity. We remember. The void paused. For the first time in its existence, it hesitated. And in that hesitation, something ancient inside humanity awakened fully. Mercer's eyes went wide as the final memory flooded his mind. Not war. Not technology. Not empire. But purpose. Humanity had never been meant to rule the galaxy. Never meant to control it. Never meant to flee from the void. They had been designed for something far more terrifying. Mercer whispered, "We're not survivors. We're containment." The archive sphere brightened one final time. Correct. Humanity is the lock. And the void has just found the keyhole. The entire solar system flared with white light. Every builder station activated simultaneously. And Earth stopped being a planet. It became a signal, a warning, a weapon, a promise. The moment Earth became a signal, reality changed its behavior around it. Space no longer flowed smoothly through the solar system. It bent, subtly at first, like water meeting an unseen barrier, then violently as the builder network fully synchronized. Mars, Jupiter's hidden stations, Neptune's silent guardians, and the ancient constructs buried across Earth all aligned into a single lattice of intent. Not metal. Not energy. A system of will made physical. And at its center, humanity. Daniel Mercer felt it before he understood it. His body was no longer just his own. Neither was Sarah's. Neither was anyone inside the archive network. Every connected human mind stretched outward, linking across Mars, Earth, orbiting stations, and deeper hidden structures beneath moons and asteroids. It wasn't communication. It was convergence. Mercer whispered, almost afraid of the answer forming in his mind. "We're not controlling this. The archive sphere answered. You were never meant to control it. You were meant to complete it. Outside Neptune, the void advanced again. But now, it moved differently. Slower. Not physically, but conceptually. As if something in reality itself had begun refusing to let it proceed. Every star it approached flickered, then stabilized. Not restored. Held. Like a hand gripping the edge of existence. The void reacted. For the first time since the universe began. It pushed back harder, and space screamed without sound. Inside the Galactic Concorde fleet, alarms erupted. Commander Carell stood frozen as tactical displays overloaded. Report. His officers struggled to speak. It's not advancing normally anymore. It's fluctuating. Like it's hitting resistance. Carell narrowed his eyes. No. His voice was quiet. It's meeting its opposite. On Earth, oceans glowed faintly. Not from energy discharge, but from latent builder structures activating beneath the crust. Entire mountain ranges opened like mechanical petals. Hidden spires rose from the mantle, connecting through impossible shafts of light to orbital systems above. The planet itself was transforming. Not into a weapon. Into a lock. In the Martian archive, the final truth emerged. The sphere's voice softened. Not weaker. Final. 217,000 years ago, humanity discovered the nature of the void. The chamber filled with a vision. The ancient builders, humanity at its peak, stood before something incomprehensible. Not a monster. Not an empire. But a universal failure state. A cosmic error that erased complexity wherever it appeared. They had tried everything. Weapons. Containment fields. Sacrifice of entire galaxies. Nothing worked. The void did not destroy matter. It erased the possibility of structured existence. So humanity made a final discovery. Sarah's voice trembled. What could you even do against that? The sphere answered. You cannot kill what erases existence. But you can anchor existence to itself. The vision shifted. Humanity building impossible structures across galaxies. Not weapons. Not defenses. But anchors. Points of fixed reality. Stabilized consciousness nodes. A living network woven through spacetime. And then the final decision. Mercer whispered. We became one of them. Correct. And then you hid yourselves inside time. The void reached the edge of the solar system. And stopped. Not because it chose to, but because it encountered Earth. And Earth did not move. It did not flee. It did not resist. It simply existed so firmly that non-existence could not proceed. For the first time, the void experienced something new. A limit. The confrontation began silently. Not war. Not explosion. But definition versus erasure. The void pushed forward. Earth held. Mars synchronized. Jupiter stabilized. Neptune locked. And across the galaxy, ancient builder stations awakened fully for the first time in millennia. The lattice activated. Humanity became the center of a structure spanning galaxies. And then, Mercer understood the final truth. His voice shook. We're not fighting it. We're defining reality so it can't. The archive sphere confirmed. Correct. The builders did not build weapons. They built permanence. Across the galaxy, every civilization watched as space itself stabilized around the solar system. The void pressed harder. Reality bent. But did not break. Commander Carell whispered. They were never defending Earth. His second-in-command replied. Then what are they doing? Carell's eyes reflected the light of 1,000 systems being held in place. They are making sure existence remembers itself. Inside the archive, Mercer looked at Sarah. We're the last line. She nodded slowly. No. She pointed upward. We're the first success. The void made one final attempt. It surged forward with everything it was. And for a single moment, everything went completely silent. No stars. No light. No motion. Just two forces at the edge of reality. The thing that erased existence, and the thing that refused to let it be forgotten. Then, a pulse. Not energy. Not matter. Identity. Across every builder station. Across every human mind. Across every structure in existence. A single unified declaration formed. Not spoken. Not transmitted. Known. The void froze. And for the first time, it hesitated long enough for the universe to respond. The archive sphere spoke one final time. Containment successful. Host civilization stabilized. Void boundary enforced. Mercer exhaled slowly. So it's over. A pause. Then the answer came. No. It is held. As long as you remain aware. Far beyond the galaxy, the void did not retreat. But it also did not advance. It remained at the edge of existence. Held in place by something it could not erase. A civilization that remembered how reality was supposed to exist. Humanity. The lock that never broke. And the key that never stopped turning. Earth still glowed in the darkness of space. Not as a home. Not as a throne. But as a boundary condition for reality itself. And humanity finally understood why they had been hidden on a small blue planet. Not to survive. Not to hide. But to ensure that when the universe was tested, there would always be something left to answer. Yes.